Today is September 27th, and it is my husband Anthony's birthday. His favorite dessert in all the world is chocolate cake. So for his birthday, I am making him some chocolate cake. I met Anthony during the summer of 2014. I didn't think I'd see him for more than a few dates, but eventually something about him got underneath my skin, like in a good way. I was dating a lot of other men at the time, but I always kept coming back to the piano guy in the South Loop. And then, just when I was willing to acknowledge that I was probably falling in love with him, things took a bad turn, and he dumped me. Thankfully, we made up after about a month, but I no longer took our relationship for granted after that. In Korea, the first 100 days of a baby's life are considered the most precious, the most fragile, because back in the day, particularly during the occupation and the war, many babies didn't survive. Thus, the first birthday we celebrate in Korea is not when the baby turns 1, but when the baby turns 100 days. It's called Baekil. After we made up, I waited for 100 days before surprising him with a gift, a book, full of photos marking my favorite 100 days from when we first met. I remember it was about the end of April, and he was really busy preparing for final exams because he's a professor. And Anthony can be a little irritable when he isn't permitted to focus on the task at hand. But I insisted that we go out to the cafe we met at for our very first date. He had no idea why. He was sitting across from me, very preoccupied, when I pulled out the book I'd spent weeks putting together. He had no idea what was going on. I explained to him, voice shaking, about the first 100 days, Baekil, and about how I'd viewed the last 100 days as a sort of new beginning for us. And then I handed him the book. He flipped it open and started going through some of the pages, and within seconds, tears started rolling down the side of his face. It was my first time seeing him cry. Thick with emotion, his voice floated across the table to me. This is the most beautiful gift I've ever received. This, above all things, is what I love most about my husband, something that many people don't know about him. He is overwhelmingly empathetic, but he keeps tight control over his emotions. I remember once sitting with his dad, flipping through the book I'd made for his son, and he stopped at a photo and said, Anthony is hard to, and he paused for a second, going through his internal catalog of Italian to English words before landing on penetrate. I nodded knowingly, because this is true. Anthony doesn't like to make commitments until he is 1000% sure he can live up to them, and as a result, he doesn't unlock his heart to many people. My husband is a born leader, confident in that joyously egoless way, but sometimes this can come across as brusque, overly direct, or, when combined with his inimitable talent, arrogant. Which is why I think very few people understand the depth of his compassion, how much of his heart resides just beneath the sleeve, how quickly the tears can emerge when he sees or even hears something beautiful. There have been countless times I've seen his face turn red as he wiped his cheeks with the heel of his hand while watching a particularly moving TikTok or listening to someone talk about how their parents fell in love. One thing I learned from my first marriage was that it isn't enough to be in love with your partner. You also have to respect your partner, indeed, view them as a partner. Korean dramas have really popularized the concept of oppa. In Korean, oppa literally translates into a female's older brother. There's a different word for a male's older brother, hyung. But oppa is also used to refer to a woman's close older male relative or friend. So, for example, I call my older male cousins oppa, even though they're technically not my brothers. And yes, sometimes you will use oppa to refer to your boyfriend or husband. I could dive deeply into this, but suffice it to say that although I too had romantic notions of falling in love with an oppa, a man whose job it was to take care of me, protect me, guide me through life as portrayed on Korean dramas, the truth is, I'm not good at relying on anyone, much less a man. I never have been. Rather than hitching my wagon to anyone's star, I'd much rather focus on making my star shine. And since my divorce, I've grown a little wary about those who would hitch their wagon to mine. This is my second most favorite thing about Anthony. He is, in every sense of the word, my partner. Though he's older than me, he isn't my oppa. He isn't someone I depend upon to define me, and at the same time, he isn't my 동생. He isn't someone whose future or identity depends upon me. I don't have to look up to him, and I don't need to look down on him. When I turn to him, we are eye to eye on what our love means and who we are inside that love. I heard the other day that some people are born to be sad, like they are genetically wired to be more depressed and melancholy than other people, and that therefore we shouldn't always feel so pressured to be happy all the time. In fact, being happy all the time isn't really the point of life at all. Still, if there are people whose DNA is coded to make them a little sadder than others, then I think there must also be people on the opposite side of that spectrum, those who are just more positive than others. This is my third thing I love about my husband, how happy he is. Every morning he wakes up excited to tackle the day. Me, on the other hand, well, I don't think I have an unusual propensity towards the morose, but I'm definitely more in the middle. I tend to look at how things are, while Anthony often views life through how things can be. He is so rarely saddled with anxiety that he can literally bound out of bed, ready to conquer a 20-mile run, teach a music theory class, or learn a piece of music with the same level of excitement that kids usually reserve for Christmas morning. The truth is, I used to think this was kind of annoying. But after a while, I realized how much more fun life can be when you approach it with that much elan and optimism. When things get bad on the news, when I start to wonder whether humans will ever turn the corner in their pursuit of meaning and equity, he repeats one of his favorite quotes to me. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. About 7.5 years ago, I walked back to my apartment with a sheaf of papers in my fist from the Daily Center. Signed, notarized, and file stamped, I slid them into a manila envelope containing the important papers: my marriage certificate, my mortgage, tax returns, and now a divorce decree. That afternoon, my sister-in-law and I headed to Tiffany. Together, we oohed and ahed over things I'd never be able to afford, and in the end selected a rather demure necklace and ring. When the clerk, a woman in her early 60s with long, elegant fingers, asked what the occasion was, I answered, "My divorce day." She pursed her lips with a conspiratorial grin, and without even looking up from the perfect white bow she was crafting over my robin's egg blue box, she answered, "Ah, yes. I did the same for my D-Day." A week later, I was confiding to my therapist through thick, ugly tears, "I'm scared. I'm scared I will never love any other man the way I loved my ex." And she said this, "Joanne, that's a good thing." The night that Anthony proposed, we were staying in a tiny studio B&B in Tribeca, and I remember thinking that morning as I lay next to him in bed of all the horrible chapters in my life, from the stupid boy I kissed when I was 12 years old to the cutting nightmares of my divorce, all the way through to the last man I'd been with before giving myself completely to Anthony. Bracing myself for the familiar dread and what I can only describe as a sense of immense ugliness, one thought pushed through and stopped the mounting shame. Anthony is worth every unhappiness in my life. Happy birthday, babe. I love you, and I can't wait to spend the rest of your life with you.